Good day, friends. Trust that you and your family are well. Today is August 9th, and today, 78 years ago, the second of two nuclear bombs were detonated over Japan. And the country that did that is now trying to convince us, wherever you live in the world, that we should be concerned, that we should be aware, and that we should be on the lookout for Russia and North Korea and China and Iran, although Iran has no nuclear weapons yet. They're trying to convince us that we should be scared about these countries when they are the only ones to do so, right? And they did so um, to civilians, right, causing the death of over 200,000 uh, Japanese citizens, including women and children. Now, the issue that I have with this is that people always would talk about that when they're talking about Russia and talking about North Korea, that there should be consequences and that type of stuff. But if we look at the only time in history that happened, there were no consequences. There was actually only benefits. All right. The United States of America was able to um, create for itself a sort of air of invincibility because of that. The country themselves, who they use it against, they were able to write the Constitution of Japan in 1946. And up until today, it has never been amended once. They probably was too busy with other things, right? They've also became lifelong partners with the country who they bombed, right? And of course, many other things. You can always use um, your imagination or your memory to look at how this incident, all right, this atrocity, right, this um, real, evil occurrence had benefits to the country that did it. But now they claim that no other country should be allowed to do that, and even when the G7 met a couple of months ago, they laid wreaths, and the participants in it, the other vassal states that follow around the US, none of them mentioned the US, right? It's like some terrible thing happened, in the distant past, and they just were, walking along, doing their own, um, continuing to pay, homage to this incredible power, right? But again, when I look at this, you can definitely see why the majority of the countries in the world are now moving away from a sort of blind compliance to the US's, um, all their overtures and their coercions and their attempts to force countries into bowing to their will. And you can look at what's happening in Africa even right now, and the countries have decided that they will no longer go along with what the US prescribes. Um, Russia, of course, who is the successor state to the Soviet Union, um, they have always been independent. They've never lost their capacity to act in their own best interest, save for a short period when Yeltsin and Gorbachev was in charge, right? And again, obviously, these gentlemen, um, they bear the scorn for that in the East up till today, right? While they are loved in the West. Now, I know a lot of people would think that I probably dwell too much on issues like these current affairs and having a historical view on it. And I think it's important because I always mention, as a believer today, I think Christianity lacks credibility, right? Because of the the things that we condone, the things that we support, right? The people that we follow, and in trying to present, you know, trying to present God to the people we live amongst, it is difficult because obviously they can see God. We are the persons to present the light of the Most High to the world in which we live in, and if the view that they have of us is that we support um, injustice, evil, wickedness, right? Then what kind of a God is that, right? And again, it's not that if you do the opposite, that people will automatically follow. That's not the point. The point is people who are unbelievers. I don't think that they've had enough examples by people who claim to be believers to be shining this light in this regard. Again, I said we always seem to be leaning heavily in the direction of the oppressors, right? And again, if you speak to most people who say that they are Christians, they believe that America is a force for good in the world, when the evidence is to the contrary, right? And the if you don't have credibility in these things that everybody else can see, again, I'm saying it's useless to claim to have insight or be able to guide people through something that is not seen. And once we begin to, pick sides and look at um, things through a partisan or nationalistic type of view, there is where um, your belief is tied to a religion, and that is the thing I am realizing that people do not trust, and because it's been proven to be untrustworthy, right? When I say a valuable um, exercise would be to go back and look to see how um, different religions have been developed, and even if we want to be specific to what we call Christianity, I mean, they all grew out of national interests, right? They all grew out of national interests. They um, supported and were involved in things that clearly the Bible does not teach, right? But again, we find ourselves following religiously the institutions, right? Rather than seeking from Scripture to see what our guidelines and our perimeters should be. All right. So again, it's something that I believe during this time the opportunities are there for us to see clearly um, who is who and who um, believes what based on their actions, right? And this is a time which I believe coming to the end, we would have a separation, right? Scripture tells us that this is where you must now say whose side are you on, right? And I'm not meaning in a political sense, because this system is one that converges in a point where we can see there are no right and no left. These are different sides of the same coin, and they all serve the same master, right? And they do it differently to deceive you and me. So, I mean, this is just the encouragement here to continue to seek for yourself. Again, go back and don't accept the history that you were given, right? There's enough information for us to sort through on our own. And in doing so, we would be able to find the truth. All right. So, again, family, continue to take care of yourselves and each other. And until next time, Yah willing, be blessed.